Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's getting cold out there, so I thought it would be timely if we did this cute little snowman. He could be a standalone snowman, or we can turn him into a Christmas ornament. And I'll show you at the end how to do that. And he's easy enough to make with your kids, and he would be a great gift to a teacher or grandparents or anyone you know during the holiday season. So let's get started. Here's everything we're going to use, and here's the pattern, and I will link the PDF in the description. So let's jump in. I already cut out all my pattern pieces and I keep them in this container lid so I don't lose anything. So I'm gonna start with the body. We'll need 2 pieces, and some people like to trace it. I just like to cut straight with the paper, but if it's easier for you to trace with a pen, go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna cut like this. I like to cut a larger piece first and then concentrate on the details. That way it's easier to handle. The great thing about fabric scissors is you can cut with the very edge, which makes it easier for tiny details and corners. Now let's do the scarf. I have 3 pieces. The neck. And so for the scarf, the front part of the scarf, see where I have it here, it says fringe. So I need to make the fringe. So just cut a few pieces. Don't make it too thin because felt tends to fall apart if you make it too thin. So like something like this. And then same thing for the second piece, which is shorter. And now the arms. So when there's straight corners, I find it easier to cut around. And then instead of going like turning with scissors, I like to cut it to the corner and turn. Make sure your template is still in place, and cut again and meet that corner. And it's just easier, it just folds out. Again, corner on this side, corner on that side. And there's the arm, and then you can go in and maybe fix some of the parts that are too fat. I'm gonna use my detail scissors just because I have them, but as you could see when I was cutting the arms, I used my regular fabric scissors and it worked totally fine. I'm gonna try and use just regular kid scissors and see how well it works. It's a little more effort to cut, but it is possible. It's working pretty well actually. Now let's try the tiny corner. So yeah, regular school scissors work almost as well. And now the eyes, I'm just gonna eyeball it Also, you could use, if you have more of those black beads, you can use those instead of the eyes, instead of the felt. Also, if you don't have beads for the buttons here, you can easily use same pieces of felt as for the eyes. So if you're planning to use felt for buttons, you can cut out those as well. We'll need 3 or 2 if you prefer, like this. Okay, so I have everything cut out, and let's start assembling. Before we start putting everything together, we need to think a little bit forward and see what we need to start with. So if there's ever any stitching on top of the body or the head, we need to do that first before we put together the body, so we hide everything inside, all the stitching. So looking at my picture, I will need to attach the nose and attach the buttons. The mouth we're gonna draw on, and the eyes are gonna be glued on. So I'm gonna start with the nose and the buttons. So the nose, I'm gonna use black thread, just because it kind of reminds me of those little specks, you know, when kids draw a carrot, there are usually little black ticks around the carrot, so I think black stitching will kind of look like that. So we're gonna use our blanket stitch, and to start that, we're starting inside between the pieces of fabric. We're hiding our knot, and then the second stitch goes not all the way through both pieces, but just one, and goes from the inside, and this will give it a nice clean start. And then we just go around, and I'm thinking this carrot nose is too tiny to stuff, so I'm just gonna put the 2 pieces together and it'll give it some volume, but I'm not going to fill it. And sometimes, not sometimes, but every once in a while, the thread gets twisted and you need to let go of your needle and kind of get it untwisted. Otherwise it becomes impossible to work with. So I'm just gonna finish here. And I like to pull my needle through to the other side, so that there's nothing sticking out here. Okay, so before I attach my carrot, I'm gonna place everything and see where things go. Put the hat on, my eyes, his eyes, and the scarf. So I think this looks good. I can mark the eyes and where the carrot's gonna go. Just gonna lift it a little bit. Sometimes it's easier to use a needle or a pin. Just lift it up. Maybe not. Lift it up, put a little dot. I'm actually just going to pin the carrot. And I'm gonna draw the mouth, so I'm not gonna mark it just yet. Okay, I can take off the eyes, put it into my container so they don't get lost. I already have my thread prepared. I'm just gonna use that same black thread, and I'm using a double thread. I'm just using regular thread. Some people use embroidery thread, but regular thread, synthetic all-purpose, works just fine. So I'm using double thread, but I have one of the pieces loose and the other one has the knot. I find that if I tie all the pieces into the knot, then the thread starts bubbling and you get into all kinds of problems. You have to pull it all the time, just a headache. So I prefer to have one loose piece. Okay, so let's start attaching the nose. I'm gonna start around here. So it It has some volume, but it's not flapping too much. I'm gonna try to match my stitches on the carrot. So whenever you attach one piece to another, the stitches work like this. You go across at a straight angle, at a straight line, put your needle in, and then you do diagonally, and your needle comes out at an angle for the next stitch. So here I'm trying to trace my stitches, my previous stitches. So this way you get nice vertical stitches. So again, you go to straight line, put your needle in, and come out at a diagonal. And just keep going. If it's too much, too difficult to do in one stitch, you can do it in 2 steps. You go through, tighten it, and then come out in your next spot, which is the beginning of your previous stitch. I think that looks good. Now we're gonna do the finishing one in the back. Make sure it doesn't stick out on the other side. And I like to do 1, 2, sometimes 3, and tighten it well. Up. Now we're gonna do the buttons. Let's put the scarf back in. We should have done our planning all at once, but oh well. So we'll put the scarf in, find the beads, or again, if you're not using the beads, using the felt, you can use that. Let me show you what it's gonna look like with just the felt. So you can do this, just like that. Looks cute too, but I do have the beads, so I'm gonna use those. And again, I'm gonna mark the location with a dot. And I'm gonna sew them on. And I like to use 3 or 4 stitches to attach the beads. That way I know they're not gonna come off by accident. And I like to position them so the holes are on the side and not sticking up. And I like to do a finishing stitch after each button, just make sure it's securely on. Okay, so the front where Snowman is done. I'm gonna put the eyes in later when the body is finished, so because we're gonna glue them and the glue needs some time to set, and if I put the eyes in right now, I will have to wait. So I prefer to finish the body first and then put the eyes in and let it rest for a bit. Okay, so let's put our body together, and now we need to plan where the arms are gonna go. And for that, we're gonna need to put the scarf on again. Just make sure there's enough space for the scarf. I think I like to cut the arms a little bit thinner. Maybe cut the fingers a little bit like this, so they look more like sticks. There we go. I think this looks more fun. Okay, so let's put the arms and see where we want them to be. I think this looks good. So I'm gonna take my marker and mark the beginning of each arm on the inside, so I know where to stop and put the arm in, because it's easy to forget. And believe me, I've done it, and then you have to backtrack and restitch everything. Now let's put the body together. I'm gonna start about here, so I have enough space to fill in the stuffing. Again, we're gonna start with our blanket stitch, hide the knot, put the needle in between the fabric pieces, and then just keep going all around, or actually keep going until the first arm. So here I reached my marker, and I'm gonna take one of the arms and put it in, just like this. And so I'm gonna go in and out through the arm. And here I can already do my blanket stitch. So ideally you could put a couple of stitches through the arm so it's secure in place, but I feel like it's holding. And here let's insert the second arm, so kind of like this. Okay, and now I'm gonna fill him in. Okay, let's stuff our little guy. He won't be difficult to stuff because he doesn't have any thin parts, corners. And just use your finger or a chopstick. Pencil works well too. Make sure you put enough in the neck, because if the neck is empty, then the head's going to be floppy. So you want to make sure that the neck is filled, but not too much, because then it's going to be lumpy. We don't want that either. Okay, I want to add just a bit more here. And I have this skewer that has a pretty sharp edge or point, and sometimes it helps to kind of bring down all the fuzz from the stuffing so it doesn't stick out. This is pretty good, so I'm gonna close this opening. Okay, here's our little guy. So now he needs eyes, mouth, scarf, and the hat. I'm gonna do the scarf next. So let's see what we want to do. So we have a long and a short piece, and then the piece that goes over the neck. We're gonna start. We're gonna connect these two together. Sometimes if it's a little bit too short, you can take your piece and stretch it out a little bit, and then it should work fine. And this one too. Yep, this works well now. So let me show you what the plan is. We're gonna attach this side of the scarf to the body and to the back piece, and then we're going to attach this part right like this, the short part, and then the long part we're going to overlap with the short, but it's gonna go up. So we're gonna put a couple of stitches here, then we're gonna close this like this, and then this is gonna go over, and then we're gonna put some glue here so it stays in place. Maybe put a couple of stitches here too so it doesn't jump up. Okay, so let's execute on our plan. Okay, so I'm going to pin this arm so it's not in the way, and I'm going to insert my needle into the body actually, so the scarf stays in place, and then I'm gonna do blanket stitch. So here, and we're gonna do just like when we start. I'm gonna come in between the two pieces. Tighten, just gonna be 2 or 3 stitches. If you can, get a little bit of the body as well, just to make sure it's definitely secure. I'm not gonna slide around. Okay, and that's it. And then I'm actually gonna go underneath here where I'm gonna attach the short part or the scarf like this, and do a couple of stitches there, hide the arm. One, gonna do a couple of back stitches. Like this. Gonna come out here, and now I'm gonna attach the long part going up. Again, just a couple of back stitches. And you might notice that on white felt it gets a lot of lint and it's very visible. When we're done, we can use the lint roller. I can show you how, and it takes care of that. So don't worry about all the tiny pieces that are stuck to the white part of the snowman. Get rid of those. Okay, so I think that's secure enough. I'm gonna bring this over. Find the back side and connect these two. Again, if you can, get a little bit of, when you put your needle through, get a little bit of the body, just so the scarf stays in one place. Okay, and now I want to make a couple of small stitches just to keep this in place. So I'm gonna go underneath here, and actually I'm gonna put a dab of glue first, the top part, and then close it. And now I'm gonna grab just this bottom part. Not see my needle is not gonna show through on the other side, so just a couple of threads from the bottom one more time here. See, I'm just grabbing this part of the felt. It does not go on that, it's not visible on the other side. And tighten it gently, don't pull too much because it's gonna bunch up the fabric. And now we can go, let's go back here and do our finishing stitch so it's not as visible. Cut, and here we go. Now our little guy has a scarf and will be warm. Not that the snowman wants to be warm, but it's gonna be fashionable. All right, let's work on the hat now. So on my design, I have this little snowflake on his hat, so I'm gonna show you how to do that. But if you don't want to do the snowflake, you can skip that and just stitch the hat together, which we will do a little bit later. Okay, so the snowflake, we're gonna use embroidery for this, but I don't have embroidery thread right now, so I'm just gonna use regular white thread, which works fine. So I'm gonna take one part of the hat, and actually I'm gonna draw a guide for myself. And I found, actually my mom taught me when I was small, when I was little, that to draw on dark fabric, the best tool for that is actually a soap. You know, that annoying piece of soap in the bathroom that's impossible to use. Well, it works great for drawing on fabric, as it turns out. So I'm just gonna draw my snowflake so it's easier for me to do the embroidery. Something like this. And with soap, you can just wet your finger and easily wipe it off. Okay, so I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to start in the center and make 6 long stitches. First I'm going this way. I'm going to take out my needle across. Pull it lightly so you don't gather up the fabric. And then come back to the center. And just keep going. Okay, so the base of my snowflake is done. And now I'm gonna add these little ticks at the end. So I kind of measure maybe 1/3 from the top tip, and then stick my needle on one side of the line and do a little stitch at an angle. And then come back on the other side of the same line and make another stitch. And so just do it 5 more times. Sometimes the stitch gets a little too far, so I'm gonna redo this one. And here we go. We have a cute little snowflake on his hat. And now we're going to put the hat together. When we start the hat, if you want to make him into an ornament, we need to remember to insert a ribbon inside the hat. Since I'm putting the hat at an angle, because I think it looks kind of cute and funny, the ribbon needs to go into the corner right here, otherwise he'll be hanging crooked. Okay, so I'm gonna start stitching the hat. Okay, so at this point, if you would like to make him into an ornament and you have a ribbon, this is a good place to insert the ribbon. So when you put your ribbon together, if you do it just like this, just fold it in half, your ornament is going to turn on a tree. It's going to be hanging like this. So what we want to do is twist one of the ends like this, and then when you attach it, then he's going to be hanging forward. So when you put them in, make sure they don't twist around. Sometimes it's easier to make, I'm just gonna do it right now, just make a couple of stitches here, or even one stitch. Just to make sure that they stay in place. Now I'm gonna make a few more stitches here to get to the corner. And now I'm gonna insert this also at an angle, because if you do this like this, it's gonna be crooked, so you need to make sure it's going at a diagonal, continuing the corner. So I think this is gonna be good. One more blanket stitch, and then we're gonna repeat what we did with his arms. Gonna go from the back, making sure we're poking through the ribbon, and then above the head through the ribbon, and then again one stitch here, and now we can return to our blanket stitch. I think here I'm gonna do the same thing we do with the first stitch. So instead of going all the way through, I'm gonna poke it just into one piece of fabric. This way we get a nice vertical or right angled blanket stitch, and just finish stitching the hat. And I leave my thread in so we can attach the hat. It's gonna go on like this. I'm gonna pin it just so it stays in place, doesn't wiggle around. Put one more pin in here. So here we're gonna do the same stitches as we did with the nose, the carrot. We're gonna start right across our current stitch where the thread is sticking out, so straight down, and then stick your needle out at a diagonal, and again straight down and diagonal, and just keep going around. At this point, there are a lot of elements are sticking out and trying to get into your thread, so just go slowly, don't rush it, and make sure that you unravel, you fix your thread before tightening, making sure it didn't catch on anything. I'm gonna do one more finishing stitch, and I'm gonna hide my thread. somewhere in the hat. So we're almost done here. All we have left is the eyes, and you can glue them on. I still have my marks visible, so just attach them to the marks. But what I like to do is to add a little tiny white stitch on each eye as a reflection that we usually have from the light. And I think it adds so much life to the little characters, but you can absolutely skip this and just glue the eyes as is. So I'm going to show you how I make the reflection. So it's nothing else but a tiny white stitch. Going to one or sometimes two. Just like this. One is done. Let's do one more. Okay, so I put in my white stitches, and if you do them, try to put them in the same spot on each eye. I usually try to do them on the side. This. Now all we need to do is glue them on. I'm using this Tacky glue for felt and foam, which supposedly works better for felt, but I think just regular Tacky glue will work just fine. It just maybe takes a little longer to dry. You can attach it and then you can turn it while the glue is still wet. And it stays wet for a bit, so you have time. And then just press it in, and then here we go. Here's our little snowman, and I'm gonna let it dry for a little bit, and then we're gonna come back and use the roller, the lint roller, to clean them up a little bit. And I just realized we forgot to add a smile. So on my previous version, I just drew a smile here on the side, and that's what I'm gonna do here as well. So because the mouth is so small, you theoretically could cut it out of felt and then glue it on, or you could actually make embroidery similar to the snowflake we did, just in black color, black thread, but I'm going to use my fine Sharpie and just draw. And the way you draw on felt, the best way is to just do little dots. Just going, it's called stippling. Just keep doing the little dots next to each other. If you start doing lines like this, it doesn't work very well. Maybe if it's straight line starts, and I don't like the lines, so I think the dots work better. You have more control over it. So I'm going to the mouth right here, and just going lightly first, kind of see where I want to go, and then just go back and forth several times until you see, you like what you see, basically, until there are no more gaps. And you kind of need to press, not too hard, but hard enough to pass all the fuzz that the felt has. That way you get to the actual fabric. And I think this looks good. And our final step, when I work with white felt, I like to clean my toy at the end because it tends to attract all the little lint pieces from other colors. So you just take regular lint roller, just a clean one, and just go in and with small short movements go around and clean all of those particles. But make sure that the eyes are, and whatever elements else you glued on, are already holding pretty well and the glue is dry, otherwise you're going to take off an eye or another element. It already looks much better. You just have to turn your roller to find clean spots. And here we go. Here's our smiling snowman as an ornament and as a standalone snowman. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and see you in the next video.